I want to now go to the attorneys, Jared Smith, Brad Vinson. Let me start with you, Jared. With regard to evidence, what if any evidence is out there that exists as to your client?
Well, right now, our client is aggressively pursuing these charges. Johnny looks forward to his day in court. There's some things I can't answer at this appropriate time, but we do believe that when the appropriate time comes, we'll be able to tell our story.
Well, let me ask you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And as far as evidence, I think Nick is the focus of this investigation. He's at the center of everything. I mean, everything revolves around him. You've got multiple CIs here. You've got a source. You've got all this GPS evidence. The window that he was just talking about a minute ago is Nick's window that was used to enter the house. I think the focus of the investigation here is Nick, and we're doing our own investigation. And as far as any evidence regarding our client, we're not seeing anything right now that proves anything other than his innocence.
Now, that may be the focus of the investigation, but the viewer should know that your client is charged, right? So if your client's charged, obviously he's a focus as well. So then the issue becomes, as it relates to your client, why do you say, if you do, that your client wasn't involved in this case?
Going to be any evidence to put our client at the scene, and we do believe that he will be exonerated whenever the facts come out. Like my law partner, Brad, said, we're doing our own investigation. Johnny has a team of lawyers working with him. It's not just me and Brad. It's also former Court of Criminal Appeals Judge Charlie Baird, who's a defense attorney now, very well respected in the Austin area, who's on this case. We have multiple investigators. We have other experts. And whenever we're able to tell our story, remember, Johnny was just arrested a couple weeks ago. These search warrants that you mentioned earlier just got unsealed in the last day or so. So once more evidence comes about, we'll be able to talk to you guys more. But we do believe that our client will be exonerated at the end of the day.
So, Jared, you mentioned when you get an opportunity to tell your story. Let me give you that opportunity. What is your story, and why is your client, or why should your client be exonerated, as you continue to mention?
The reason is because he didn't do it. There's not going to be any evidence to point to him that he did do it. There has been some allegations in the probable cause affidavits that says he had a relationship with Nick. I wouldn't cast it as a relationship. I would say that he did know Nick, just like I know tons of other people. It's not illegal to know somebody, but I don't believe there's going to be any evidence to put our client at the scene that night. Also,
Sure, go ahead.
Other thing. The focus here, just like my law partner, Brad Vinson, said, needs to be on Nick. This person is clearly maniacal. I'm not a doctor, but he could be a sociopath. He's going out absolutely just almost asking any single person he meets at clubs, at apartments, everywhere else to go kill his parents. There's a ton of evidence against Nick. I don't know if he was able to find someone or not. I don't know if Nick was one of the shooters or not. Those are things that will be, for us to find out later on as the case progresses.
Now, I know you, Jared, and you, Brad, want to point to Nick, obviously, right, because he's a person who could be the ringleader here. But again, I want to remind viewers, you're here because your client is charged. I want to just explore briefly the nature of the relationship. You mentioned it's not illegal to know someone. It certainly is not. But what was the relationship? Were they friends? If so, for how long? Did they go to school together? Did they hang out after school together? How long did they know each other? And what was the nature of that relationship?
Yeah, Joey, they lived in the same community. I think they knew each other from being out and about places there, restaurants, clubs, things like that. I don't think it was a friendship or anything like that. I think that, based on what we've discovered so far and what we've read, it was just an acquaintance type situation. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now as far as the relationship between the two of them.
And also, I want to mention something, Joey, that actually our client right now, he is not been charged with murder or capital murder. He's charged with solicitation, the same charge that Nick is charged with.
Absolutely. But that carries a significant sentence, does it not?
Question. It's a first-degree felony in Texas. Absolutely.
Okay. And at the end of the day, there's been no one charged with the actual murder at this point. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Stand by momentarily. I want to get Triple B in here. That's Bad Bob Bianchi. Now, Bob, before I go to you, I want to cue up a soundbite for you. All right? I want you to listen to this soundbite, and then I want you to react to it and tell me what you think.
He basically told me his father was murdered, so I felt incredibly awful for him, as a normal person would. Something that I found a little odd is that he sent me the police report in Austin of what happened. Everyone grieves differently. It didn't seem to faze him. Just the overall absurdity of the situation is just bizarre.
So, Bob, people often talk about how people grieve, and just talk about that from an evidentiary perspective. I mean, people do grieve differently when they see or learn that someone else has died. Is that right? So what does that mean to you?
Well, you're right, Joey, and it really depends a lot on the kind of grieving and whether or not it makes sense to the police. And we used to try to expend ourselves, go backwards and say, wow, this story sounds really squirrely. It doesn't sound right, but maybe they're grieving. Maybe they're just not getting it right. But sometimes you just have that instinct that says, something's not right here. Like, for example, a ripped up note that has a diagram of a crime scene, on it potentially, and CIs that are then coming forward and indicating information that only the people who are perpetrating the crime could know, and then the police later backing that up with objective evidence that shows the CI was being accurate. So this is what you try to do.
CI is a confidential informant.
Right.
And those are people who may have inside information that work with the police. Right. And when you say we used to do something, you were a former prosecutor, correct?
Sure. Right.
You were the prosecutor.
That's right. And with the CI, you've got a confidential informant. You have to be very careful. They have motivations a lot of time to lie. They can find out information through the press. But I have pretty good confidence here that they would not have gotten an arrest affidavit, probable cause affidavit, and gone forward on third parties that they believe were tangentially involved if they didn't believe they were in fact involved. But again, as the lawyers say, we have to wait for that evidence to be proven in a court of law.
Always do. Tony Plahetsky, are you still here with us?
I am.
Tony, if I could ask you, what's the most compelling piece of evidence that they have now, if we know, as it relates to Nick and as it relates to Mr. Leone?
Well, law enforcement have really, according to what they have told us, assembled a trove of information, if you will. We're talking about text messages that were exchanged between he and people he, according to law enforcement, was soliciting to carry out this murder.
Are you talking about Nick, Tony? I'm sorry. Are you talking about he is in Nick or he is in Johnny Leone?
I'm talking about he is in Nick.
Okay.
As well as information with regard to him accessing the security system at his parents' house, disabling it for a period of time, around the time and the immediate aftermath of the murder. So authorities really have described a trove of information against Nick Shaughnessy in this case.
And quickly, Bob Bianchi, based upon, we know his mother's standing by him, right? Does that mean anything to you in this case?
No, it doesn't. It's not unexpected that family members are going to support, even if somebody's done a horrible thing. That happens all the time, Joey.
Absolutely. And going back to the lawyers, if I can, to Johnny Leone, last word, why do you think your client, Brad, will be vindicated at the end of the day here?
He didn't do it. He's innocent. He's not involved. I think that there's a whole lot of other people here that need to be looked at. As we just discussed, there's multiple confidential informants. What are their motivations? Why are they, coming forward with these stories? What are they worried about? Those sort of things. I think that our guy's not the guy.
And Jared, when are you next back in court? What are the next steps here? Are there any pending motions?
Yes, so we've been in the process of filing a number of discovery motions. There's going to be a court date on Monday, but there's a good chance that could get reset because the case is unindicted, but we look to be in court very soon.
Well, we appreciate both of you taking the opportunity to state things about your client and to exonerate them very much. So we'll see you soon. Bob Bianchi stays with me. Tony Plahetsky, appreciate you as well.